Hello, this is Tony Heller from RealClimateScience.com, setting the record straight about climate. In this video, I ask the question, is the United States warming? According to NASA, the United States has been warming fairly steadily since 1880, up almost 2 degrees centigrade during that time. NASA hasn't always shown this warming, however. This is the 1999 version of the same U.S. temperature graph, which showed something very different. NASA showed quite a bit of cooling from the 1930s through the end of the century, with their warmest year 1934 about half a degree warmer than 1998. And along with this graph, their top climate alarmist, Dr. James Hansen, published this text. Empirical evidence does not lend much support to the notion that climate is headed towards more extreme heat and drought. The drought of 1999 was much smaller than 1988, when the Mississippi almost dried up. 1988 was a temporary inconvenience as compared with the repeated droughts of the 1930s that caused an exodus from the prairies, as chronicled in Steinbeck's Grapes of Wrath. In the U.S., there's been little temperature change in the last 50 years, the time of rapidly increasing greenhouse gases. In fact, there was a slight cooling throughout much of the country. In the 1999 version of the graph, they showed the U.S. cooling from the 1930s through the end of the century. But the current NASA temperature graph shows quite a bit of warming during that same period. This animation overlays the 1999 NASA U.S. temperature graph and their current one at the same scale on both axes. It shows how NASA has dramatically altered their data since 1999. They've cooled the 1930s by a large amount, and they've warmed the late 20th century by an equally large amount. So what caused NASA to change their data? Well, they don't actually generate the data themselves. They get it from NOAA. And after the year 1999, NOAA started dramatically altering their data. The blue line shows the actual thermometer data recorded from their network of U.S. thermometers, about 1,200 stations, and it shows that the 1930s was the warmest and it cooled since then. But the data they released to the public is this red line, which shows the warming that's currently shown in the NASA temperature graphs too. This blue line over here shows the hockey stick of data alterations they make to the data. This is the difference between the actual measured data and what they report to the public. And it shows nearly 1.5 degrees Fahrenheit of alterations to the data they make through adjustments. So what is behind the NOAA temperature adjustments? The main thing that's happening is that NOAA is losing station data. A certain percentage of their stations don't report every month, and when they don't, NOAA generates computer-modeled, fabricated data in its place. In the 1970s, about 10% of the data was missing and fabricated, but that number has been increasing in a hockey stick over time, and now almost half of their data is missing and thus fabricated by computers, rather than being actual thermometer data. This graph on the right shows the temperature adjustments NOAA makes on the y-axis, and on the x-axis it shows atmospheric carbon dioxide. You can see there's almost perfect correlation there with an r-squared of 0.98. This is the ultimate confirmation bias junk science. NOAA is altering the data to match their theory. NOAA is rewriting their own history. This article from the New York Times in 1989 was titled, U.S. Data Since 1895 Failed to Show Warming Trends. The article was based on a study from NOAA's top climate people, including Tom Karl, who headed up the National Climatic Data Center until just a few months ago when he retired. It said, after examining climate data going back nearly 100 years, a team of government scientists has concluded that there's been no significant change in average temperature or rainfall in the United States over that entire period. Well, NOAA's graphs currently show a lot of warming during that same period of time. People tend to disbelieve me when I show them this evidence because they say, well, NASA are the people who went to the moon. We trust them. Who are you to dispute the rocket scientists? But if we look at what the actual rocket scientists say, the astronauts, engineers, and scientists who actually managed the Apollo program and went to the moon, they say the exact opposite. They're very angry about the climate junk science currently going on at NASA. Recently, 49 of the top people from the Apollo program, the people with the right stuff sent a letter to the NASA administrator asking them to stop this climate nonsense. I recently presented this evidence at the Washington State Senate in Olympia, Washington, at their beautiful Capitol building. A very angry Democratic senator plopped down a huge pile of papers on his desk and said, "Who are you to dispute all of these scientists who say the exact opposite of what you're saying?" I pointed out to him that all of those scientists' research depends on the accuracy of the NASA NOAA temperature data, and that's why it's so important that we get it right. Please visit Toto on the web at realclimatescience.com. He's been pulling back the curtain on junk science for a long time.